I'm Amy from Winterwood Studio, and today I'm going to show you how to take a sketch like this and transfer it onto a piece of paper like this. And we'll be using today some white graphite paper and a pencil, and that's it. So gather up your supplies and let's get going. Okay, so I started by cutting my paper down to size. This is PastelMat. I'm going to be doing a pastel drawing. And I taped it onto a support surface. I like that when I'm working. And then the next thing I did was rip my drawing out of my supersized sketchbook. In case you're interested, this is the Strathmore sketch paper, 100 sheets, fine tooth surface. This is 14 by 17 inches, and I'll drop the link down below. It's my favorite sketchbook when I'm doing large size paintings or drawings. Okay, so the first thing I've done is place some tape along the top and side edges, just on one top and one edge, because you're going to want to be able to put your white transfer paper underneath and move it around as needed. So then position your drawing where you want it on your paper. And I'm thinking, well, like that. And then tape it down. And then, I don't think that was straight. Luckily, this is artist masking tape, so it is repositionable. And I'll drop the link for this tape down below. You don't want to use regular masking tape on this, because if you want to reposition it, then it will rip your paper. So yeah, that's better. Right, I moved you a little closer there so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to take this is from Royal and Langnickel. It's their white graphite paper. I've heard some people say they have trouble having pastels stick to this. I've never had any trouble with it at all. I guess just try it and see what you think, but I personally have not had any trouble with it. These aren't the biggest sheets in the world. If you want this process to go a lot faster, you could get some bigger sheets, but this is what I have. So you're going to unfold it. The shiny side goes down, and you're going to slide it underneath your paper here, all the way up. I might need to put another piece of masking tape here to hold it down. We'll see if this holds it. Okay, and then you're going to take either a ballpoint pen or a blunt pencil, and we're going to trace our lines. Okay, so you're going to take your blunt pencil and just make sure your paper is underneath where you're going. And then just trace your outline onto your paper. And what I like to do is get a good section going. And then, and this is why the artist's masking tape is so important. Yep, that's transferring. So you peek to make sure it's transferring as brightly as you would like. And I'm perfectly happy with that, so I'm going to continue tracing this. You're going to want to press somewhat firmly, but not too much. You don't want to indent the tooth of your paper too much, especially if you're doing like me and doing a pastel drawing. Once you lose your tooth on your paper, you're kind of out of luck. So I drew my sketch like I would normally draw my sketch. And then on the Cougar, where it really matters, I did go through and do some shading and also just mark some lines so I would know, like, this was a really light patch here in my reference photo, and then this was a dark patch, just so that once I'm starting to work on the pastel surface, I don't get too messed up. And It's fairly easy to put dark over light, but it's super hard to put light over dark. And even with the dark over light, it's not going to get as light as it would be if you left it light in the beginning. So these marks are pretty important. It's not like oil paints where you can just paint over something. You kind of have to get the colors right the first time. So for me, these lines are pretty important. I guess if you're transferring onto canvas to do like an oil painting, it wouldn't matter so much. Another trick that's helpful is to trace with a different color than what you drew in the first place. I didn't want to do that because I like my sketch, and my son asked me if he could hang it up in his room. So I didn't want to ruin it too much. Okay, so let's check this again and make sure it's still transferring. Remember to move the paper around as needed. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it is transferring very nice. Make sure you don't let your tape come loose up here or you're going to have a problem. It's pretty hard to line things back up once the tape comes off. So, and since these are just guidelines for me for this part, it's not super important if I get everything exactly where I put it here in the first place. Although, I will say, you're not going to be able to erase this if you screw it up, so depending on how confident you are, plan accordingly, I guess. This paper says it's graphite paper, but I found it doesn't erase well to start with. And then on top of that, you're using PastelMat, which is, it's almost impossible to erase on without destroying the tooth of the paper. That some people like to just trace their reference photo right on to the paper instead of going through the steps of actually making a sketch. And I will say, I mean, it saves time, but honestly, I think it's really hard to create beautiful art when you do that. I think it looks a little, stiff, and I also think that even when you trace, things can get weird looking, and if you don't have the ability to look at something and tell when something is weird looking, how are you going to be able to fix it? And I think you develop that skill of telling when something is weird looking by doing lots and lots and lots and lots of sketching. So that's my 2 cents on it. I know there's a lot of debate on the art community over whether or not tracing is cheating. And I know all about the whole camera obscura thing and how the great artists back in the day used that, and it was essentially tracing a reference and all of that. But like I said, I think being able to freehand draw something, you get skills that you're not going to get otherwise, and you kind of need those skills. So thanks for being here with me today. It sure would be helpful if you would hit the subscribe button, and if not that, at least hit the thumbs up and like this video. I'm going to keep putting out tutorials and more behind the scenes, artist life type stuff. So if you found this helpful at all, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. And until I do, happy creating.